Welcome to our presentation for the Rethinking Education Conference in London. On behalf of GPS Pathways to Learning, we are really proud to be able to join you virtually and share with you what we have been doing in our part of education. I'm very pleased to introduce the team. Faith Borkowsky, an independent literacy tutor and expert from New York. Tre Hadrick, a school counselor from Pennsylvania, and myself, Geoff Vaughan, a university lecturer in Hungary. Our work is based on a deep belief in a need to change literacy outcomes for the better for all those who have not had the chance to be taught properly before. We often focus our work with quotations that inspire our work, as we have included some of these in our presentation. We believe that we have started to and will overcome the deep and significant challenges that many have faced with regards to reading and literacy. It's a story with a terrible past, an inspirational present, and we hope with a profound future. And this is our pathway to learning. We know that success in reading is often despite the system, not because of it. Success in reading, we know, can often be a rich man's game. Private tutors are hired, psychologists, children going to private schools, parent advocates, attorneys involved. But the reality is that most parents depend on public schools and cannot go outside the school system. And this has also been a historic problem, and many students are not achieving proficiency in literacy even today. We can go back over history to the Jim Crow laws, the Brown v. Board of Education in '54, the Civil Rights Act, all the way through to now in 2019, when the NAEP figures for the US found that just 15% of Black fifth graders were at or above reading proficiency. And the data here shows as well that at third grade, 48% of Black third graders were at a basic level of reading compared to 77% of white students. So is it any better today? And we know that this is not a new situation. And teaching and helping anybody, people, to read has carried consequences for a very long time. Take a look at the Georgia Slave Code back in 1848, and there was punishment for teaching people of color to read, severe punishment. This historical context and this present reality has driven our passion to practically change the situation as best as we can. US education is still separate and unequal. There are lower expectations for different elements of society. More children are likely to be suspended if they cannot read. They're less likely to be placed in gifted programs. More are likely to be labeled as emotionally disabled. But we also know this is not just true of the US. So what have we started trying to do about it? We knew we had to try to bring more information about the fundamental importance of reading to the community. And I'm going to pass over to Faith to tell you about that story.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. So, when I started teaching in 1986, I was in a classroom with diverse learners. It was a third grade classroom, and I could not understand why so many children couldn't read. And I thought there was a problem that was going on in the lower grades, in kindergarten and first grade. I couldn't imagine why we had so many children not reading until I became a first grade teacher myself. And I realized that it didn't matter how hard I was working, there was a problem. And the problem was an instructional problem. So I began to explore different methods, always looking in bookstores to get information. And then I discovered a book that changed my life. It was a book by Diane McGinnis, and it was Why Your Child Can't Read and What We Can Do About It. And I realized that we just had it wrong, that whatever I learned at the university was not able to help children. So I knew I had to change myself. I had to change my instruction and take charge, even though the instruction in the school stayed the same. And I became a student. I invested in myself and began taking courses to learn about what actually works. And my path actually went from the classroom into a reading specialist position, into administration, into coaching others in classrooms. And I was part of a movement in the States called Reading First. Reading First was a government initiative to help children from K to 3 become readers so that we wouldn't leave children behind. And there was an act, as Geoff mentioned, No Child Left Behind. But unfortunately, we were still leaving children behind. So fast forward to now in 2022, and I am now tutoring. I'm a consultant for school districts. And along the way, 2 years ago, because of the pandemic, I was able to meet Tre Hadrick, something that also changed my life in many ways. We were able to discuss his child. He reached out to me and wanted some help. He told me that he just wanted me to listen to his child read. And I agreed to do this. We met on a Zoom conference. And of course, I wasn't just going to listen to his child read. I assessed his child. And what I found is he was very much behind in reading, as his father suspected. He knew all along. He just couldn't pinpoint what the problem was. And Tre and I started a conversation about what reading instruction should look like in the early grades. And I agreed to help his son. Over the course of this time, he watched as I helped his son, Ernesto, because I always insist on having a parent sit in on my tutoring sessions. So it's not only the child learning, but the parent then learns how to help the child. But Tre is a very unusual parent because instead of just saying he was pleased that now his son was learning to read, as a matter of fact, quickly learning how to read, his son was reading polysyllabic words in the matter of 6 to 7 months. with correct instruction, he did not want to just accept that it was just for his son. He wanted all children to get this type of instruction. I also am a proponent of having all children read. I wrote books on the topic, um, Failing Students or Failing Schools, A Parent's Guide to Reading Instruction and Intervention, and If Only I Would Have Known, which both books are meant to alert parents to the difficulties as well as the solutions to help their children learn to read. In discussing how we can help others, Tre decided it was necessary in his community to have somebody who might not be as well off as he is. He is a teacher, an educator, living a middle-class lifestyle. He wanted to see if this would work for a child who might not have had the advantages that his son had going through a school system. So he enlisted the help of a group called the Norristown Men of Excellence, and they were able to find a youngster who was in real need of help, who was classified as a child in special education, a self-contained classroom. His parents were separated, and the school pegged him a behavior problem. So he really was looking for proof of concept. So I agreed to do a certain number of sessions at a reduced cost. And sure enough, this child, TJ, did start to learn how to read. And as a matter of fact, I continued working with him beyond the 8 agreed sessions because I couldn't just let the child off at this time. I continued until he was reading the way he should, and he ended up winning an award for reading at the end of 3rd grade. So Tre was very excited about this type of progress. To him, this was proof of concept that it absolutely is instruction, that it's not about a child not performing the way he or she should, that if every child was given the right instruction, that that child can succeed. So I encouraged Tre to read my books. I mailed it to him from New York to Pennsylvania. And the one that really, I guess, got him excited was the If Only I Would Have Known book, because he said, every child should get this. And if every parent in my community knew about the information in this book, we could change the trajectory for all children. So what we did was we decided that this book will be shared with others. He wanted to just buy 10 copies of my book and start handing it out to people. And I said, you know what would be more impactful? If you, Tre, led a book study group. And he looked at me like I had 10 heads. Book study group, I don't know how to do this. I said, you can do it and I'll help you. And I gave him some questions, guiding questions that he could use. And he got a group of men together. He named them the Lit Champs. And the book discussion lasted over the course of 3 weeks. Here's an example of some of that wonderful conversation. I think you're on mute. Could that be it? I'm not hearing anything. I think we need to just start that again. Sorry, technical difficulties.
One example, yeah. So my kids, half Black, half Native American. How many school districts in America you think still teaching Columbus still came to America?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. We know there's a lot of things that's wrong, but nobody's not willing to address it and approach it and go spearhead right on it to say, hey, this isn't working. And it's just not our kids. Yeah, I mean, the powerful trick is it's all kids from all ethnicities, backgrounds, and everything else. So we just thinking it's just our kids. It's everybody else. It's just that, you know, we are more conscious because we've been put in this position over the last couple years.
And we already started behind. So
yes. Like, when we're talking stuff or whatever, everybody else, they had the privilege. Hey, they make a little bit more money, they live in better communities or whatever like that. So subconsciously, they're thinking that they're already at more advanced or more, you know, afforded the opportunities that they have, but they're just as stuck as what we are. And they don't even know.
So that's only a small clip. But when I saw the conversation that was going on, and I know Geoff felt the same way, the two of us said, this is the best thing I've ever seen in education. And I honestly feel that way because it's real. It was raw and it was an awakening. I kind of watched an awakening unfold over the 3 weeks. And luckily, Tre videotaped all of it. And there were so many nuggets in this, watching how these men started off not knowing very much and a little hesitant to just actually gaining all this confidence because now they knew, hey, this wasn't us. This was that we were put in a position to feel like it was us. It's really about instruction. And this silence, and I love this quote, this is what Jacques Olson, the barber, said, we have to talk about this. The silence is killing us. And that's exactly right. And as a matter of fact, the barber, who was not shown in this clip, you'll see him soon enough. The barber probably is the one who has been most vocal and most active in trying to change the community. Jacques decided he wanted to do something by opening up his barbershop as a place where people would get information, making it a resource center. And the three of us were all on board to try to help that happen. We can now say it's a reality. So what happened? They decided that they were going to begin getting other people, as people would come into the barbershop, getting them interested by making the barbershop actually look like a place where you would get information, not just a place where one person shares information. I'm going to turn this over to my friend Tre, who has worked diligently to make this happen. Honestly, I can't even believe what's been accomplished in such a short time. And that's a result of his persistence, his diligence, and his enthusiasm to help all kids. As I said before, he never made this about just his child. And that's why I have so much respect for him. I'm going to turn it over to Tre now.
Thank you, Faith. And thank you, Geoff, as well. Great introduction, both of you. This story means so much to me, and I'll explain more. I am an educator in Pennsylvania, locally in Norristown, Pennsylvania. I'm also an adjunct professor at Villanova University. But more importantly, I'm a father of a son who was struggling to read. And here we go. So as Faith mentioned, with myself and the four gentlemen, we discussed her book, and we learned so much from there, we decided, how can we make this happen in our local community? How can we make it happen in a barbershop? With the power of social media and sharing some of the information which we were doing, and with Faith and Geoff and some of their networks, we were able to get donations from Piper Books and Phonics Books out of the UK. They sent books over to the barbershop directly, which was amazing just to see the connection internationally with the small little town in Pennsylvania. But we also received an anonymous donation of 2,500 American dollars with the generosity and the hard work that they're, well, what the people were witnessing us do, trying to be game changers. They were very impressed, and they said, take a chance to make this happen for more kids. Here's a donation with no strings attached. Just make it happen, and we want to see progress. So we were fortunate to be able to buy some more books, to do complete sets of phonic books and Piper books, and we were able to put sound charts in numerous places within the community. As you can see here, here's a picture of the barber Jaquise, and actually my son Ernesto, standing in front of the sound chart from phonics books, as well as the bookshelf that Jaquise actually put in himself, that we purchased with all the different books. Just amazing experience, amazing opportunity to make a difference on a small scale that can have great ripples and effects down the line for many people. We also bought sound charts for others in the community so they can have them in their locations with the money that was donated. It allowed other people to start with their children, as you can see here with these two young men. They were going through the sound charts. There was videos online. You can hear the young men reading the sound charts and reading the words, going through their vowels and their consonants, for the first time through that chart. So it was just amazing to witness this happen. Here's another one. We constantly stress the 44 sounds of the alphabet. We always say that many people know the 26 letters, but if you ask them how many sounds, they don't really know. They might say there's, your vowel sounds, your A-E-I-O-U, or your 21 consonants, but they really don't know the sounds like they should, right? They don't know the blending of sounds. They don't know the two vowels together making a sound. So we really stress the importance to tell the community to learn the 44 sounds. Make sure your children are learning the 44 sounds of the alphabet. And here's a picture of a young man who was working on it with his parents in their home. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony. We had a local press when we did get the books donated. It was an amazing experience. We have a small video clip of the event from that day. It just to be able to do things to leave your mark on society, because you never know how it will affect others in the future, and we're just thankful to be part of this. And we do know now that this will be a global initiative that will move around. Everyone might not do a barbershop, but they will do somewhere in their community. But this has just been amazing so far. We also, because of social media and the efforts that we were able to do, strangers, or I'll say new friends from across the waves, donated their very own decodable books for the barbershop. Customized, I would say, just for the barbershop initiative, from Phonics SEN, Ann Sullivan out of the UK. Just so thankful. And just being honest, I always speak a lot about equity as a school counselor, and she did make sure the artwork was representative of all the different cultures, and ethnicities. So for us, it's so big to see that, because you don't often have that in children's books, and to see that in decodable books was just really an important thing. So just thank you, Anne, so much for that. Some people feel the Lit Chants became stars on social media. I'll be honest, we're going to show you a video in a second that has been viewed over 10,000 times. So to some extent, I would say we are stars, or we are known by many. We also purchased a printer so that we can print out copies of the decodable books that Ann has sent over and others that we've received, so kids can go home with decodable books. And even if you don't just come to the barbershop, some people have been coming to the barbershop just to learn about what's going on, and their kids can go home as well. Like, you don't have to just get a haircut to get a book. We would love for you to sit longer and learn, but the barbers are so engaged in this. It's not even just about a haircut, it's about a literacy movement that just starts in the barbershop. There was also a Cutting Illiteracy t-shirt, brainchild of Faith Borkowsky, to just share the message even more. You can see Geoff wearing it here, on our call right now. Cutting Illiteracy, one phoneme at a time, which is purchased. Over 100 shirts were purchased around the globe, just to share the message and just constantly say that we're trying to cut the illiteracy down little by little. If people still want to purchase, the shirts are still available online on Bonfire. If you look up Cutting Illiteracy Tee, you'll be able to purchase different colors, different types of shirts, long sleeve and short sleeve. Waiting for a haircut has never been so much fun. We use the hashtag Cutting Illiteracy. Reading is definitely vital, and the smile of learning is priceless. And you can see here as a young kid is in the chair, looking through a book. This child right here obviously is not reading just yet, but the telestory books from Phonics Books is what we have there, so that kids can start the imagination and working on just learning about stories. So it's just amazing. Then we also had t-shirts donated. Dropping Knowledge with Heidi Martin on Instagram. She donated t-shirts to the barbers, as you can see here. Literacy and justice for all. So important. So important to see that the united front to fight this crisis. A poster with a QR code is in the barbershop that allows parents to scan free materials at a low cost. It's also broken down by their grade range, so they can go exactly to what they need. But it's just amazing. It's just an amazing thing that is happening. And this is because this young child will be entering kindergarten in the fall, and he is learning the sounds of the alphabet. I mean, that's just so important. As I said earlier about tell a story, and just learning how to read and having a book in your hand. This is what happened here. Like, he was reading the tell a story book. He was struggling actually in the barber seat, and he was viewing the tell a story book, not reading it, because it's no words, it's all pictures. But it just immediately, that book silenced him and allowed him to focus on the story and not worry about the haircut. And if we think about reading and what it does, it allows us to go to our own world, right? It allows us to have to cut off some of the distractions of the world, right? And allow us to focus. And that's such a positive thing, even for mental health. As a school counselor, we need to learn how to be able to escape for a little while of the reality of what's going on, because it's a lot. And reading and literacy is so important. It allows us to do that. And as we say, be lit. And here, Marva Collins said, once children learn how to learn, nothing is going to narrow their mind. And this is the norm at Goodfellas Barbershop: literacy and justice for all. And children are learning to read. We believe in decodable books. It's happening. And this is the first barbershop that I'm aware of, and I think that everybody is aware of, in the United States that has decodable books. And we want to show you a quick clip of the barber Jaquise, just recalling, actually Jaquise and Thad, recalling an experience with a uncle and a young nephew while they were in a barbershop.
His uncle was telling me how he's struggling in school. Can't read, they need to do so many things, want to move into a new school and everything. I tell him to go grab one of the books, ask him about a few sounds, tell him to open the book, ask him what sound that make, what sound this make. Now put your sounds together, start blending together. Youngin reads 2 books in here without a problem and gets up excited saying, I can read. Confidence was through the roof. His whole aura changed as far as
the way he was feeling about books before he came in here.
Yep.
Whole thing changed. Had his uncle ready to cry. Like
Yep.
he couldn't believe it.
Yep.
Couldn't believe it. And in less than 20 minutes, this kid is reading 2 books. Decodable books.
Great.
Less than 20 minutes.
Less than 20 minutes. He's ready.
Less than 20 minutes. A hair and a half. Decodable books.
But he's reading the basic level.
He's starting from the beginning level. Yeah, he said, and we're building upon that, but just from the beginning level stages and him learning sounds and putting sounds together, he was doing it. And it built his confidence in that matter of time. That he thought he could read. You know?
And that's a start. And that's a start.
That's the start.
And that's a start.
It's building the confidence.
Yep.
And you're witnessing it yourself.
I witnessed.
Making sure he's not intimidated by words or letters. You know?
And that is the video that we were talking about earlier that has been viewed 10,000 times online. So I thank you, you know, for listening to my part of our presentation, and I'm going to turn it back over to Geoff. Geoff, you might want to you have to unmute, Geoff.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Trey. And you know, that last video it's inspired us so much with what Jacques is saying about what he's doing in the barbershop. And what we're hoping for is that this example that we have shared with you of what can be done in a small local community, we're hoping that that can grow and it can spread. And we're hoping that what we have shown you today, it can inspire others to join us in trying to make a real change anywhere for all children. So Goodfellas Barbershop is where it is happening. And the heroes of our story so far really are the gentlemen that we've introduced you to. Jacques in the barbershop, the barber. Troy, who was on the YouTube video talking, with Kellen, with Melvin, and with Thad, also in the barbershop. These are real heroes, doing the work, bringing the message, practically helping in the community. And we are also determined to ensure that the right books, using structured literacy and systematic phonics provision in decodable books, as have been so expertly created by people like Geraldine Carter at Piper Books, by Phonic Books, and as Trey mentioned, by Anne Sullivan at Phonics for SEND. We know these books and the systematic way that they're introduced work, and we want to ensure they get into the hands of as many children learning to read as humanly possible. I'm going to pass over to Faith here.
Yes, every time I see that video of Jacques, I can't help but smile. To me, that just says it all. Watching him cut hair and be the teacher, the real teacher that's inside of him just emerge, just always makes me smile. So where are we going from here? We want to impart that this does not have to be in a barbershop. Even though what you're seeing takes place in a barbershop, we are determined that this can happen in any community, business, or service industry, whether it's a church, a synagogue, a rec center, a pediatrician's office, a library. We are determined to spread the message. The barbershop happens to be a real hub in the Black community. And we use that as a starting point, but it's not the end. So we hope that this will be shared in other places. Tre brilliantly laminated these charts, these sound charts, and started to put them up in his office at school. He's a guidance counselor. So it's so easy to do. It opens a conversation. And that's what needs to happen. As was said, silence is killing us. We need to talk about this. A chart having the decodable books available starts to initiate a conversation. We're hoping that my book can be used in other book studies. If only I would have known. If people are interested in making that happen, they can go to the book's website, ifonlybooks.com. We will show you links to lots of different people and places where you can get started. We're hoping next stop will be pediatric waiting rooms. That's where it really needs to happen at birth, that this information is shared with young parents immediately. We're hoping to train tutors to become community leaders of literacy. My goal really is to get back into Tre's community and find ways to help people to tutor. What I want to get across is you don't have to be a certified teacher or certified, in structured literacy to use a structured literacy approach. That is very important to know. Anybody could make small changes if they know how. And GPS as a group, we are really looking to help others to make that a reality. We want people to realize that they don't have to depend on others in the community. If you could just go back, Tre, for 1 second, I just want to get across that we really not only want to help children, but we want to help parents become advocates. Many times we turn our power over to the school. We want parents to know that they could really make a difference. So here is our email address, gpspathwaystolearning@gmail.com. You could follow us on social media, Mr. Lit, EDU, Faith Borkowsky, and II Learning. If you could take a look at us on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we would be happy to respond. So just to sum up, we want to just say that the science of reading should not be this big secret. As a matter of fact, when people hear science, they get intimidated. So much of this is common sense. The information, the knowledge is so important, and that's what we have to share. We have to start changing this for all children. These are the links that I mentioned to you before. The link to my book and to free resources is at the top. My own general website, high5literacy.com. Any information you want to learn about Tre and his work as Mr. Lit and the books that he writes, it's all on Linktree, Mr. Lit EDU. As Tre said before, bonfire.com, the shirts are still up there. And then we have links to the 3 important companies that help make this a reality. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, and we hope that you will connect with us. Unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Faith. And thank you so much, Tre, for both your parts of the presentation. And we want to thank you all for listening and watching us. We hope you have seen what is possible if we really try and find a path forward to achieving reading success for all, wherever you are in this world. And we hope that now maybe you can join us in this crucial aspect of rethinking education.
To see more videos like this one, visit rethinking-ed.org/reconf22. That's RECONF22. To connect with our conference speakers and delegates, you can join the Rethinking Ed Mighty Network for free at rethinking-education.mn.co. And finally, if you enjoyed this video, please consider donating to the Rethinking Ed conference. All proceeds will go to educational charities. Visit buymeacoffee.com/reconf22. That's RECONF22.